Hello everyone, it's Lindsey, and today I'm back with a Bible journaling process for you guys using the Sufficient Grace devotional kit. I will have everything linked in the description box down below, as well as the playlist for this kit, so you can see lots of inspiration from the other gals on the team. I do also have my growth book set up in that playlist as well, so you can see how I set up a space to work through the reflection questions. I've really been enjoying that because it gives me a little bit more private of a space to work through those questions, and then I can kind of focus on the scripture in my journaling Bible, which has been really nice. And so it's been really interesting to watch all the ladies as they work through this kit. We all are kind of pulling out and sharing a little bit of our own testimony and how we are resonating with this devotional content as we look at Paul specifically. Now, there are several verses here for you guys to study in, and I did go ahead and kind of do some study in those. I do want to note that this one here for Matthew, it says Matthew 28, but it should actually be Matthew 26. That was a typo. I know I've seen some notation in various places kind of pointing that out, but I do want to just reiterate that should be Matthew 26. And so I will be focusing on 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. This is specifically looking at Paul and kind of that standout verse that we think about when we talk about suffering. So starting partway through verse 7, it says, "Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan, to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, quote, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness.' End quote. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Now, I know for me personally, I haven't always felt the way that Paul did towards the end of that. And I think we all can resonate with that. We don't all have the same type of suffering, but I imagine we've all kind of been through something in our life that was that thorn, right? And so we kind of go through the wave of pity party, woe is me, and then hopefully eventually we reach a point where we can have peace in that and recognize that it's an opportunity for God to really shine and his power to shine. It's not about us and what we can do and our power, it's about God's power. And so for me personally, many of you that have followed me for a long time kind of know my health journey. I'm pretty open with that, just because I know that it's helpful for other people to see real life and to see somebody walking through chronic illness. I've struggled with that for many, many years. And because of that chronic illness and health issues, I did make the decision to quit my 9-to-5 job in 2014. And a blessing from that was that I was able to spend more time with my family, be more present for my kids, a decision I probably wouldn't have made had I not had health issues at that time. And then in 2016, I had a stroke, no real reason for it, just kind of out of the blue. And after that, since 2016, it really kind of exacerbated a lot of health issues. You can see my fingers are purple. I do have Raynaud's. Just various autoimmune issues that were really exacerbated since 2016. And I really had to kind of take a step back and slow down and kind of evaluate what's important in my life and what I should be focusing on, because I only have so much energy and feel well enough to do so much. And so it's really allowed me to kind of just sit and rest in God and kind of focus on him more. And it definitely has not always been, that type of feeling towards it, but it also helped me to kind of refocus and evaluate my health in general and just, doing away with man-made everything. I try to purge chemicals. I try to just eat more natural, only, using kind of things that are of God's creation. And I know that doesn't work for everybody. I think there's a time and place for modern medicine. I definitely have been in that place. But I wouldn't have gone on this journey had I not had those health issues start up. And so I kind of get to see, God's ability to shine in my weakest moments and then share that with others, which I think is really important to do as well. And so that's why I've been kind of so open about it and will continue to be open as I go through that journey. It isn't always sunshine and roses, let me tell you. There are some days that are really, really tough. And I know it's tough for the people around me as they have to take care of me, but it's humbling for me to have to rely on other people. And I think that's an important lesson as well. And so I want to do a little bit of journaling journaling here as I work through this for 2 Corinthians chapter 12. And so I kind of perused the other gals' videos to kind of see what they had done. I wanted to do something a little bit different so that you guys have plenty of inspiration. Of course, I'm going to be using the layered stamp because, I mean, it is super amazing. The other gals used some inks. I saw some markers, things like that. And so I decided to go ahead and do it with some NeoColor 2 crayons to give me kind of more of a watercolor look. So I'll be showing you how I stamp with those. That is a technique I've done in the past, but I wanted to kind of bring it back up so you guys can see that. I'll be using some stickers from the kit here. I did pull out this set from Perpetually Enough. This wasn't one of the recommended sticker sheets. The colors aren't exactly spot on, but I wanted to pull in some more of this darker green, so I did pull those out. And then I kind of staged everything on some wax paper. This really makes it nice so that I can kind of see where I want to put things, how to lay it out, and that kind of thing. And so this is kind of a nice little trick. I am journaling in this NIV Pocket Bible. It's a much smaller Bible. You can see about the size of my hand. These kits are really a great size for a smaller Bible like this, but there isn't a whole lot of room to journal. So I'm going to create my own journaling card using these pocket cards from scrapbook.com. These particular ones are just lined cards. I'm going to do a little bit of embellishment on there, but this is going to give me a space to do some additional journaling, whether I write out the verse maybe on the front and then do like a prayer on the back. I could definitely do that. So this I wanted to show you because if you are working in the smaller Bible, again, there's not a lot of room to write, but especially if you're working in a traditional Bible that has no journaling margins, this will be a great little tip for you guys for adding, little things into that particular Bible. So let me go ahead, put you guys on fast forward, and we will go ahead and put together this journaling entry. All right, I'm going to start with a little bit of die cutting. I have this intricate hexagon die that I found at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to cut out one of the medium-sized hexagons from some plain white cardstock. And this is going to act as a base for my word stickers towards the end here. You can see I am cutting on a magic mat. I get some questions about that. I'll link it down below. It really saves you money in the long run on your cutting plates. I love it. So here you can see that hexagon just fits perfectly in the page there, but I am going to use it as a template first, just to give me an idea of where to do my stamping. My idea is that the flowers are going to be kind of like popping out around this hexagon piece to kind of create like a wreath of flowers. So I'm just taking a pencil and adding a few lines, just guidelines. I will erase these so that you probably won't be able to see them on the camera, but I can see them as I'm working. And it just so that way I know kind of where to line things up as I'm stamping those flowers. And once everything gets stamped down, you won't be able to see those pencil lines. I'm just going to use a little bit of plain paper behind the page to protect everything. And then I remembered that I have this nifty little thing. This was from Hillary from Creative Faith Co. She sent this to me as a gift. So if I can figure out what it is and find out where one is, I will link it down below for you guys. It holds open your journals, planners, Bibles. It's really nice for these smaller Bibles. But getting started with the stamping, I'm going to load up the two different parts of the layering stamp on two different blocks. I'm just trying to figure out, when I'm working in the gutter of the Bible, I like to lay the stamp down first and then pick it up with my block. That way I'm not fighting the gutter as much. And then I'm rubbing those stamps on my skin to really dirty the stamp up, just kind of rub off the oils from the manufacturing process. That way the NeoColor 2 crayon doesn't bead up. It kind of stays evenly coated on the stamp. And then for this technique, you're just going to take your crayon and lightly dip it in some plain water. I'm barely breaking the surface of the water with the crayon and then scribbling that onto the stamp. I started with my light color first, which was chromium oxide green, and then I'm adding a little bit of dark green in there for some shading. And then when I stamp it down, I want to hold it down for multiple seconds. That way the page absorbs the water. And so when I lift up the stamp, the pigment is just sitting on the paper, not on top of the water. If you pull it up immediately, it just all runs together in a big blobby mess. And then I do wipe off the stamp in between each impression. Even though I'm using the same colors, I'll show you here in a second what happens if you don't do that. But again, I'm just taking my lighter color first. I always go in with my lighter color first, dipping that just barely in the water, and then same thing with the dark color. If you get too much water on here, it's just a big blobby mess. And again, remember, I'm looking at those pencil lines, kind of keeping those in mind so that these look like they're kind of spraying out from that hexagon piece. So I'm going to speed this up quite a bit because the technique is exactly the same. Just going in with that lighter color first, adding a little bit of dark shading, and then stamping it down, holding it for a few seconds, and then moving on. So here's where I didn't wipe off the stamp. I'm just going back into the stamp. There's already some color down on here, and you're going to see that the colors really mush all together, and the whole image is way more mushy. I mean, in general, this particular technique gives you a very, mushy look, but it's too much mush if I don't wipe it off in between each stamp. So that's just a little trick that works for me. And I want to see the differing colors. I want to see the light green and the dark green and that kind of thing. And as I'm stamping this, you can see it almost looks like kelp. So you could use these stamps kind of independent of each other, just as fun kind of texture elements in backgrounds. They don't always have to be layered together. This is a really nice, versatile stamp. I know everybody on the team has really been enjoying using it. So now I've got all my greenery down. I can go ahead and move on to the flower portion, but I do want to make sure I dry all that greenery first because I don't want my flowers mixing with the greenery. I do want things to be kind of separate. And I'm using the stamp backer to kind of figure out where this goes, how it lines up before I start stamping. Now, I fussed about this quite a bit, trying to get it just perfectly layered, but in the end, this stamp is loose enough that it does not have to be perfect. You do not have to have it perfectly lined up. I know some layering stamps have to be like in a stamp positioning tool, perfectly lined up. This is not one of those. It's very easy to use. So for the flowers, I'm going in with pink, and then I'll go in with a little bit of carmine for that darker pink, and then I'm adding a touch of saffron just to get a little bit of orange here and there. And then same thing, I'm going to hold that down for a few seconds and then lift it up. You could do the same technique with Inktense pencils. You could also try spraying some spray inks on a mat and then dipping your stamp into the spray inks and then stamping it. Now that technique will bleed through your Bible pages, but it will give you that same kind of watercolor look if you're wanting that and don't have the NeoColor 2 crayons. For the yellow flower, I'm going in with golden yellow and then a little bit of saffron. And the nice thing about NeoColor 2 crayons is that they are pigment, so they don't bleed through your Bible pages. I will show you towards the end that there is some ghosting, but no bleed through even on these thinner Bible pages. I do have a Tip Tuesday all about NeoColor 2 crayons. I'll link it down below for you guys if you're curious some different ways that you can use these. They're just a really fun water reactive crayon. Now there are two different types. NeoColor ones are like your traditional kind of Crayola crayon. They do not react with water. NeoColor 2s are the ones that react with water. So you just want to be, careful when you're ordering them if you want to try them out. Just going through the same color combinations here to finish this up. And here you can see as I'm working in the gutter, I found a little bit easier to lay that stamp down and then pick it up with the block. And then I only ink up the part that's going to be on that blank page. So I decided to add some splatters to kind of fill in some areas. So I'm scribbling some of that carmine pink onto a stamp block. And I don't typically do this where I flick it off of the stamp block. And here is why. It leaves like this big splat. It does not give me that organic look that I want. It's more like linear splatters. And so I now remember why I don't do that technique. I usually just load up the brush with color and then tap it over the page, but it's fine. So to finish off these flowers, you could leave them as is, but I am going back in and adding a little bit of definition. So I'm just taking a small detail paintbrush, I'm getting it wet, and then I'm picking up a little bit of the color from the tip of the crayon. This is that saffron kind of reddy orange color, and adding some centers to the flowers. And this really kind of adds some definition to them so that it's not so abstract looking, and kind of mimics more the flowers that are on the sticker sheet. And then I'm using carmine for the pink ones. And I absolutely loved how these came out. It was exactly how I envisioned with the NeoColor 2 crayons. I like it with stamped inks. It's really pretty like that as well, but you know me, I love watercolor, I love mess, and so I like how those came out. So now I can go ahead and add my stickers to that hexagon piece. Again, since I have them on the wax paper, I can kind of lay that over and figure out where I need to start, where the center is. It just makes it a lot easier. If you are type A fussy perfectionist like I am, the wax paper really helps you kind of get things lined up easier. I've got some tweezers there in my hand for kind of some of the trickier, placement of stickers. It helps for that. You'll see I kind of go in between using my fingers and the tweezers, but the tweezers do kind of help when placing things down. So I could have left that as is, just like that, but I wanted a little more definition between the word piece and the background. So I'm just grabbing a black brush marker and kind of adding some edging to this hexagon piece. I'm kind of angling the brush so that it just lightly overlaps onto the front of that hexagon, and I'm slowly building it up. I don't want to go in too crazy because I don't want it super bold and black, but it's almost adding like a shadow or some definition to that hexagon so it stands out from the background. Making sure that all my inks and things are good and dry before I stick that down, and I'll just use some liquid adhesive. My liquid adhesive, I love this Barely Arts glue, but I lost the metal tip for it, the little pin. So I grabbed a straight pin and it rusts every time that I have it in there. So my glue is brown because I lost my pin. Don't do like I did, but it works. It works just the same. It's just not white. So now I can move on to that card. I'm going to use one of these floral stickers. I really wanted to put all of them on here. They are so pretty. And initially I thought that I would trim off that bit that's hanging off the edge, but I just didn't want to lose any of it. So I'm going to trim off the other edge of this card, and then I'll flip this over and just use my EK Success powder tool, dust that over the stickiness that's exposed, and that makes it so it's not going to grab a hold of anything, dirt, dust, Mabel hair, whatever it might be. It mattifies it so it's not sticky anymore. And then I'm taking the little cross cluster, and I'm going to use some Yield ink from Creative Retreat. This is a really pale yellow ink. Again, I want to journal on this, so I want to leave myself room. I don't want a lot of, busyness on there because I am going to journal some prayer notes over the top of that. And then I had to include some of this washi. This washi is so pretty. So I'm just going to fold it over and create kind of like a little pull tab. I don't know, not necessary because I'm not sticking it in a pocket, but just a fun little added detail. I did decide I wanted a straight edge instead of that torn edge, so I'm going to go in and kind of snip that. And then I'm going to add a little staple just to kind of reinforce that a little bit and add a little more texture, and then a paper clip to hold it into my Bible. I try not to use things that are super chunky in this particular Bible. I do like, paper clips and staples and things like that, but I'm not adding, foam tape and those kind of things because this will get pretty full pretty quick. Highlighted my verse, that's 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 10, and then I'll do my prayer journaling off camera. But there is a look at the finished page. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below for me. Check out the description box, it's underneath this video. It's got links to everything that I use, the other videos, all that goodness. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.